Sports Counterpoints podcast. This is November the 15th, 2022. I'm GB. You got Brian. You got Coop. Man, we back at it. What's happening, fellas?
What's going on?
All right.
Man, back on. Appreciate y'all for listening. Check us out on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube, wherever it is. We appreciate your listens, likes, subscriptions. Really appreciate y'all for checking us out. Three guys that like talking about sports. Pretty much what it is. So today's show, we're doing some NFL speak as always. We'll do a quick recap of last week, and we'll do a look ahead. We're going to talk about college football and how these playoffs are shaping up. We'll also talk about are we reaching a new era of the NBA? And I want to introduce a new segment too. So something that me and the guys have been talking about based off something Brian said last week that made me laugh. So yeah, we'll get to it. So just starting off with the NFL, man. Another week down. What are you guys thinking, man? I think we probably should start with the wins and then
Yeah, we should go with B. Yeah, go with B. He had the most exciting game of the day. Yeah.
Most exciting game of the day, probably the year, and for quite some time, if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan. That Buffalo game was outstanding. Even if my team had lost, it would have been a game of the year candidate just because of how it went. But I don't know how many times I got text messages from people saying, "Oh man, you guys did it! You've got this!" And then it was back to, "Oh wow, I can't believe they're going to lose this." And then obviously at the very end of the game when they needed a touchdown, and got to 3rd and 1, like goal to go. 3rd and goal with one on the 1-yard line, and they do two plays, not one but two plays using Kirk Cousins. One where they try to roll him out for a pass, and another one where they tried to use him for a sneak. Neither of which worked ultimately, and didn't give Cook the ball on either of those two plays, which was just a horrible decision. It was over. I had relegated myself to saying, well, it was a good football game. They made a comeback. But as I have been saying, they're just not at that level with a team like Buffalo again. Hats off to Buffalo. And then, obviously the very next play was a botched fumble, a touchdown in the end zone for the defense. And we have signs of life. We're ahead. We're winning. But no surprise that they were able. The defense then, played prevent a win, and almost gave it away, and got the field goal, brought it to overtime. But just the entire game, one of the best catches I'd seen in a long, long time was Diggs, where he goes up, does a full extension, and brings that in, only to be bested in the same game a quarter later by a better catch by Jefferson.
That man
catches it. It basically takes it. I mean, it's not only he just takes it from the defender and brings it in. Incredible play. There's been a lot of stuff on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook talking about this game. And one that I really, really liked is, I think people need to stop talking about how Jefferson and Diggs are at the same level. Jefferson's younger, he's probably better, and he's definitely cheaper. And we got more than just the pick that we used to pick him from giving Diggs to Buffalo. That trade has worked out as well as any trade possible.
Cheaper for now.
For now.
Well, no, he'll get a max deal, and he deserves, or whatever the equivalent of a max deal for a wide receiver is in the NFL, and he'll deserve every bit of it. But we were going to have to do that to Diggs, and Diggs didn't want to be anywhere near the team, and Jefferson's done nothing but be gracious, talk about how much he likes Minnesota, how much he likes the team. So we're really lucky to have him. But it was just an incredible game. I still think the Bills, now in 3rd place in their own division, are probably the most talented football team in the NFL still, in spite of that loss. We needed a lot of things to go our way. The Vikings have proven that they definitely have a lucky rabbit's foot with them on the field, because things just kind of break in their direction, and they keep on winning these one-score games. They're undefeated in one-score games. There's skill, and there's making your own luck, but then there's also just luck, and some of it has to do with that.
You need it all.
And we'll be talking about this week's game, so I'll leave that part in there. But it's clear that Vegas is not quite bought in on the Vikings yet, although I'm getting closer to.
You have to. You said they had to win 2 of the next 3, and they've won 2 in a row.
Yeah. Well, no, it's They need to win 2 of this next 3. So Buffalo was 1. I thought they were going to lose that one, but now they have Dallas, huge game, and then they have the Jets and New England. Winning one of those would be wonderful as well.
Yeah.
I
But
thought you were including the
beating Dallas as a conference team will be huge. We'll talk
yeah.
about that
I
in
thought
a
you were
minute.
talking about the Washington game as well, because Kirk Cousins going back, and was he gonna look at it as a prime
No,
time?
yeah, I'm glad that he did not play it like a primetime game. Heineke, for those who wanted to laugh, tried to pull a Kirk Cousins after the game this week, and the Minnesota wide receiver went to town and blasted Heineke for wearing the chains and going shirtless, just like Kirk Cousins did after their win this week.
And Kirk Cousins is imitating his African American teammates, but cool.
That's hella funny.
Well, they dressed him up, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But Heineke tried to do it again, and his African American teammates happen to be wide receivers. Ripped Heineke a new one, saying you couldn't hold Cousins jock this.
Which is hilarious to say, because I mean, Kirk Cousins is cool, but like, so y'all got him as MVP now. Like, that's from a quarterback, you got a rep for him, but they went kind
The
of hard.
Minnesota Vikings have been very, very consistent, and the players on it have been very, very consistent on their appreciation for Kirk Cousins. Brian Morey, as a Vikings fan, has not.
No, that's as you're supposed to,
And there
as
were
they're
a number
supposed
of
to, and you.
times. Yeah, there were a number of times over the course of that game where I said, and that's why we can't win these types of games, because he made some really weird plays. But we have Jefferson.
This is also setting up for Kirk Cousins to get him a 4-year deal with the Vikes. So I know you'll be very excited about that.
He's already got more. He's more guaranteed money than any quarterback has gotten over the last 3 or 4 years. All of it's been guaranteed.
He'll get more.
Don't hate the player. Yeah, he'll get more with the Vikings.
Yeah, man. When I saw this game, I thought that Minnesota had pretty much lost, and then Josh Allen, he went Jimmy G. He fumbled at the 1, and then
two picks?
threw a pick on 4th and 2, and because the Minnesota Vikings offense wasn't playing well, but when Josh Allen made that first turnover, Kirk got it rolling after that. And this game told me more about Buffalo, not Minnesota. I've said before, Minnesota can compete with anybody in the NFL.
You have said that.
Not saying they're going to win every game, but they can compete. They have it. They can do that. They'll play in close games with anyone. Buffalo, they tend to lose these close games. They seem like they get tight. They don't know what to do. They don't know what play to call. They don't have a running game. And Josh Allen threw that 4th and 2 pick. That's why he gets paid $40 million a year. You can't make throws like that. And give Minnesota credit. Buffalo made the mistakes. Minnesota capitalized. And so that was a great game. But that Justin Jefferson catch, when I first saw it, I thought Buffalo was going to knock it down. I didn't think he was going to try to catch it. And when he tried to catch it, and people don't understand, it's very difficult to make a catch like that. That is extremely, and then keep your possession on the ground. It's extremely hard. Extremely hard.
Your arm underneath, yeah.
So whatever props Jefferson is given for that catch, I mean, he deserves it, man. Because and I got to give Kirk Cousins credit. Kirk Cousins usually will fire an off-target pass to some receiver, late in the game, and he was like, "I'm trusting my guy. Go up and make a play," and he threw it in this vicinity, and Justin Jefferson made a play, and that's what you're supposed to do. I hope Jimmy Garoppolo is looking at that. Maybe he can. He can. So take a lot of
people. Yeah. A lot of people gave Cousins some flack for a pick that he threw last week in the end zone to Justin Jefferson, and I said on here, I actually liked watching that 50-50 ball because it showed the confidence that he has in Jefferson. Roll forward to this week, same confidence, different result.
Yeah.
It was like 4th and 18 or something. So
you got to.
You got to give your receiver a chance to make a play. You go to your guy. That's what you do. And so Minnesota deserves the credit. I think we'll talk about the Minnesota game this week later, but I think I understand why Dallas it's a pick, or why Minnesota isn't getting respect. So we'll talk about that later. But
I didn't see the game. I was in Las Vegas, so I was already out.
You know what? We'll go last on yours, Glenn. We'll go last on yours. Yeah. So not that I'm bragging about the 49ers. It's just another typical game where all of our drives stall and they end up in field goals. We dominate the stats and barely win. I just wish Shanahan would just open up the offense more. I hear a lot of people always talk about weapons we have, weapons.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you're not using them, if you're not throwing the ball down the field. Shanahan's just addicted to running the ball, man. It's just killing us. That's why we play in these closely contested games, always having to rely on the defense to win. And I honestly believe if the Chargers actually had a better coach, had Sean Payton, we would have lost that game. Sean Payton takes advantage of conservative coaches. He would have beaten us. He would have found a way, even with people out. He would have found a way to beat us. Fortunately, they have Brandon Staley as coach, so he's not that good. But I'm not going to take much. I'm not bragging about the 49ers game. I mean, they were coming off a bye. Maybe we could talk about this later, but personally, I think bye weeks are overrated when people always talk about them for various reasons. When you're a team like the Niners, when all you want to do is run the ball, I don't understand why a bye week would help you because we all know what you're going to do. You're going to run the ball the next week and every other week. So,
You just
you know,
got 20 players back. That's what helped you.
Yeah, as I say,
and,
everyone
20
and,
came back
players
who was
came off
healthy.
injury. Yeah.
and,
Having
and
Eli Mitchell, who ultimately got you guys 90 yards of
yeah,
rushing, who hasn't been playing because of the bye
right.
week, is the
And
difference, right?
still only won by 6 against a depleted Chargers team. It's just you
Without
dominated the
without
stats.
Eli, I think you guys lose that game.
It could happen, but the thing is, like I said, we'll dominate stats and barely win. That's not the way it's supposed to go. I mean, we have to, put your foot on the throat of some teams, and we just don't do that. I know Buffalo tried to
Definitely.
do that and failed against Minnesota. They could have went up a couple scores and
Hmm.
they missed it, but at least they went for it, got the ability to do it. We don't, so we can't rely on 12 play, 84-yard touchdown drives every game. You got to pick up cheap touchdowns here and there, but that's all I got to say about the game. I don't know if you guys watched it. It was kind of boring to me.
I got to see the
Yeah,
very end of it.
yeah, I did
Well,
watch it. The only thing that was striking to me is Eli Mitchell coming back after his injury and supplanting McCaffrey as the primary running option.
mm,
He outcarried McCaffrey 18-14, got 90 yards to McCaffrey's 38. It was an interesting way to look at that game plan because just a week before it or game before, it
yeah,
looked like McCaffrey was going to be used in every facet consistently. And Eli, when they came in, every pundit talked about how he will now become the
back
other
up.
guy
Yeah,
to McCaffrey, and that was not the case.
yeah,
Now, obviously, with a team that wants to run as much as the 49ers do, having Eli and McCaffrey is going to be very, very valuable. And it has paid
Yeah.
off for teams in the playoffs to have a great defense, which the 49ers do, and a strong run game. But they're still going to need Garoppolo to make a couple of key plays. And
yep,
and we're not sure, we still don't know if he can do it. We're getting more sure about other teams, right? So
right.
Allen keeps on putting in these situations, getting put in these situations. Sometimes he messes up, sometimes he succeeds, but we're seeing him in these situations. We're seeing Herbert in these situations. We're seeing Cousins in these situations. We're seeing a lot of these different playoff ready quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, in these situations. We're not seeing Garoppolo in those situations.
Mm-mm.
That's a deciding factor when games get close. You go back to what you've done throughout the season, and I think that, to your point, Jason, that they're going to have to open up the offense a little bit, not because they can afford the loss here and there, but they're going to
Right.
have to take some shots and chances to make sure that the team understands what to do in the playoffs, because that's
Yeah.
when it
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah, you can't keep running on first and second down because Shanahan's the reason why the 49ers are always in third and long situations. Run on first, run on second, put Garoppolo on 3rd and 7. He doesn't, make a play or whatever, give the other team back the ball. You're just wasting downs. You got to at least try to test the defense. So, yeah, I'm with you, but, we'll see. We'll see what
I
happens.
mean,
Wins a
But,
win.
and
Wins a
yeah,
win.
the 49ers do have a problem, and that is that they do still need to make the playoffs.
yeah,
If the NFC East sends 3 teams to the playoffs, that means only division winners get in, and Seattle's got a game on them right now. So, yes, you need to win games, but you also need to make sure that when you win, the reason you win games is to get to the playoffs. You can't do anything in the playoffs. You might as well not win those
yeah,
games.
yeah. Real talk. Now, Glenn.
I'm going to say, speaking of not winning games, what a segue. Um, yeah. So I was at the Raiders game. And I'm glad we're doing this now and not Sunday because I would have sounded way different had you talked to me Sunday. I was quite heated. So I'll start with
You got
this.
tickets.
Stadium is fantastic, super nice, easy to get to. People were great. It's clean. It's everything you want in a football stadium. It's got to be an NFL's crown jewel. So that's out there. The staff was pleasant and very nice. Accommodations were great. Like I have nothing bad to say about the stadium or the experience from that standpoint. Now, on the flip side, what I found out is I'm an Oakland Raider fan, and the Oakland Raiders no longer exist. And it was very evident in my experience in that I'm used to going to Raider games. I'm used to, how the tailgate is extra live. I'm used to we stand, we make noise during the game, we bang on the seats, like we are trying to do everything to will our team to a victory. in Las Vegas. I was sitting in the club seats. I had good seats. I was about 14 rows up off the field. This is not that. This is very much a if you're a rival
Corporate event.
corporate event. If you're a rival fan, I suggest you get on down to Las Vegas and enjoy your team. You might get a win out of it, but it's going to be very calm. It's going to be very clean. I got a ticket. It's not a ticket.
Warning.
I got a warning, right? They talked to me and they gave me a written warning. They didn't kick me out. They didn't fine me. Nothing happened. But on my written warning, it said excessive standing.
Wow.
Whew.
Well, I've
So-
The
always
picture of
said,
that is classic, by the way.
yeah. Well, I've always told you, once a stadium goes corporate, it's not for fans
We-
anymore. It's not.
We've
But we
seen it
talked
happen
about-
so many
but we-
times.
We talked about this before they moved to Las Vegas. I
Right.
thought that they should move to San Antonio because that was the only way that they were going to be able to displace the old fan base and
fans.
get a corporate fan base.
Yeah.
Oh,
They
they
went to
figured it
Las
out.
Vegas, but they're doing it apparently.
Oh, they
I don't necessarily agree with what happened. I think excessive standing is one of the most ridiculous things.
Right.
That's like something that I would tell Joseph because he's running around the house. Like, you're excessively standing, son. Like,
Sure.
it would be insane to say something like that. But at the same time, you can see what they're trying to do. You are clear on
And
it now.
B, I'm very much a person that's big on personal responsibility, looking at oneself, right? So I'll give the shout out now. I go back now, and I did after the game.
Right.
I look at all my videos from the game, and I look at my selfies and from the game, and I'm the only person standing. So
Wow.
to that same flip, as
Wow.
I go back and look, it was that. So I see when I'm at a football game, I want to be, I'm perking. I want to be rowdy. I want to turn up. I want to scream on third down. I want that Oakland feel I had, right? Everybody, we talk about the amenities at the Coliseum. Yes, it was built in the 60s, and the upgrades they made to it were not sufficient 2022. They needed to move. However, that energy and that feeling that you get, that felt like football. When I was watching Philly and the Commanders game, which I think we probably should talk about, that crowd energy I saw, people
Yeah.
standing, banging on it, like that's what
Well-
I think of when I think of football.
Well,
And
Glenn, that's because
not
that's because
this.
only half the population can't read in Philadelphia. But yeah, that's right.
But that doesn't even happen in SoFi. Like, people are standing there. It's actually pretty rowdy. Rams fans are pretty rowdy.
Nice.
But it gets all over there. But did you ever at any point in time realize someone told on you?
Oh, they
Yeah.
told
In
me.
order for that, someone behind you said, "Can you
Right.
tell that guy to sit the hell down? I
Right.
want to be able to see the
Bro,
game." And I'm
and I would say, well, did they
had
talk to you?
someone
'Cause,
just said,
hey man, we can't see behind you. Oh my God, like I'm not
Right.
out there to interrupt your game. I'm thinking I'm at a game. I'm clapping, I'm doing first sound signals. Max Crosby gets a sack, I'm up, we're screaming like, bro, it's a Raider game. Let's go. Let's get this win. And that was not it. And I look around and everyone was sitting, bro. When we'd make a play, I'm high-fiving people, they're sitting. But I didn't have
man.
in my mind, I wasn't there. And now that I understand, I'm interested to see during the Raiders-Niners game how it goes, because if the Niners come in and are rowdy, they're not going to stop every fan
No.
from doing it.
No.
It's going to be a
Mm-mm.
crowd thing, right? So
Right.
depending on your crowd for that game. But for this game,
someone told on you. That's what
Mhm.
happened. Someone behind you
they
said,
told me,
that guy.
bro, the ushers were phenomenal. Again, I'll say that it was a sister, a black woman came up with like, hey, I hate to do this. We're getting a couple complaints. They came up real smooth and cool. Just like, hey, if you could just sit down. She had to give me the written thing, right? Because she has to do her job, right?
Right.
So I wasn't mad. I mean, I was mad at the time. I was salty as hell at the time. I'm not even going front. I was real mad. But
But you weren't mad at her, but you was mad. I understand.
oh,
that.
not at all. Like
Yeah,
just the
yeah.
idea of it. I'm like, bro, I'm at a football game, a Raider
Right.
game, trying to will a team to get a victory. They didn't. So that's what I noticed. It was a great experience. Stadium was nice. The people were nice. It's clean. Like it's great for what the NFL. If I was the NFL, that's what I'd want. I'll put it like that.
Do you think? I mean, you were in the club seats, so you weren't in the cheap seats. I wonder if it's a different experience because of that. The other thing is that the club seats, that's usually where the people at the casinos are being sent. So when you
Absolutely.
go over, and so the people who were in the seats, probably not nearly as big a fan as you.
Absolutely
Mhm.
not.
They were high rollers who had a good night or whatever, and
Absolutely,
the
B.
casino sent them
100%.
over, and that's where they would send them. They send them to the club seats,
Yeah.
not
Absolutely.
to the rafters or whatever you want to call it. So
Well,
I
I'm gonna
wonder.
try. For sure. I'm gonna sit. Because I was looking at tickets. I was gonna sit behind, like, in the corner of the end zone. I was just looking at stuff, and I
Yeah,
saw
yeah,
that option and was thinking, well, you're coming out for this. Why not spend a little bit of extra? Get the
yeah,
private bathroom access. Get the. We had our own concessions. The club itself was extremely nice. So, like, I'm going with mom. And since we're supposed to go next month, so I would do that again, because in that case, one, I know the situation. I'm not gonna perk like I was perking this time. If you don't know, perking means drinking alcohol.
Mm.
Um, so it'll be a little different, right? I can sit, I can understand, I'm cool. And I think for my mom and my sis, I think it's great that they don't have to kind of wait in the lines that, ladies
yeah.
often have to wait in to go to the bathroom, or if you want
Mhm.
to get a beer, I'd walk up, grab my beer, come back down. It was real nice. So, but definitely be, as I go back to more games, getting into the stadium was very easy. Walking across that road they have closed off and back to the strip was extremely easy. I'm going to try other seats. Um,
Yeah, the next time
you
you
know,
go with a couple of friends, you'll probably figure out which you can look it up. You can do which section is where where the true Raider fans are, and
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
those
mean,
kind of things.
I'm clearly gonna go. I'm not giving up on it. I'm gonna go, but
Yeah,
I'm gonna definitely do that. So that would be my best breakdown I can give. I think I know
there
I
was a
packed.
football game that got played, which you have not
We're gonna
talked
talk
about
about
at
Yeah,
that.
all.
yeah, yeah. I've noticed
No,
that
no, no,
hasn't. Yeah,
no. We're gonna get to that. But it was literally my first game in the stadium. I wanted to give that for anybody who
no
watches who
doubt.
is a Raider fan that hasn't been. Niner fans are gonna go. Is kind of what it was. It's fantastic. So as a visiting fan, I don't think there's a better stadium to go to, because I don't see how anyone else could be more hospitable than that. That was ridiculous.
Gotcha.
Now, as
Okay.
far as the game, um, one, I feel like, as far as the segue to this is not a home field advantage by any means.
Mhm.
It was loud, and they said that I talked to people who were coming back and who went to other games and said, "Oh, it was loud during the playoffs," and I'm not the playoff game, loud during getting to the playoffs and the overtime win and all this stuff. So, okay, I wasn't there, but to have a whole section like that was that kind of quiet and just kind of sitting down, I don't see how you're gonna. We're right on the field. How it's gonna be a home field advantage. So for the players, I feel them on that. Secondarily, the only person that there's two players that show, well, three that show life on a consistent basis. It's Max Crosby, Josh Jacobs, and Devontae Adams is far and away one of the best players I've ever been able to, like, watch up close. Dude is insane. I hope that we don't end up wasting a bunch of years for him and they figure it out. But the play calling was pedestrian. The defense was weak. I mean, Matt Ryan had the longest run of his career. Jeff Saturday gets the first win of his career. And all Jeff Saturday did was old school, same thing you just said about the Niners. He just ran the ball. You got
Mhm.
Jonathan Taylor giving the ball. Why wouldn't you? And then Matt Ryan was, didn't make any mistakes, threw it where he needed to throw it, ran when he needed to. And we just look stagnant and just bad. Like, they just don't have it together. And I don't know what happens, but that wasn't it, man. That
Yeah,
was just a bad showing.
yeah. Usually when you get one of these former players, this happened with Miami with Matt Campbell. Like, he's in Detroit now, but that happened the first couple games. The players are excited. You get this bump. That's why I didn't think it would be an easy win, as everybody was predicting for the Raiders.
There ain't no
Yeah,
easy win for no Raiders. What you mean?
but yeah, Jonathan Taylor, he's on my fantasy football team. He hasn't really done jack all year, so I was actually surprised he was breaking off runs
Mm-mm.
against the Raiders. But I
Nope.
thought the Raiders had won that game, and then a Raider fan told me, "Oh no, we're gonna blow it." I was like, "No, y'all got this one." And all of a sudden, I look at the final score, it's 25-20. I'm like, "Oh damn, they actually did blow it." So,
Had
uh,
chances, couldn't score.
yeah, the Raiders, man, like I said, I don't think they're getting rid of McDaniels, even though I think he's an issue.
No, the
I
owner made
think,
that
huh?
abundantly clear. The
Yeah,
owner made that abundantly clear.
Yeah,
oh,
owners
he
do
said
that though.
he said he's not. I don't think he. I don't think Mark Davis wants to find another coach. So I think he's going to keep
Sure.
him. But I do think
Well,
Derek
sure.
Carr is going to leave. I think Derek Carr is gone. I personally think
Yeah,
he's
I don't.
gone.
Yeah, I don't think the owner wants to pay three coaches, right? So he's already got two that he's got to pay. I don't think he wants the third. So I don't think it's going to happen after 1 year, maybe after two.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
I don't think Carr leaves, man. I mean, Carr, for what it's worth, shows as a very, very loyal
Yeah.
individual.
Oh
Yep.
man,
I
crazy.
agree.
And he
So
also
low.
just recruited Adams there.
I agree.
So I think that those things hold him there for at least a little bit longer. Uh,
And
but
his cap hit's not crazy. It's extra manageable.
Yeah, it's manageable. I
If they
I just
did
think
cut him, they save a bunch, but or try and trade him to
yeah,
somewhere. But
yeah. He has a market, so I think they would try to trim him. I just think with the part of that emotion he had in that post game interview, I think he kind of knows he's probably done.
it did
I mean,
feel
we'll
like that.
see.
Well,
We'll
he
see.
threw some people. We don't know who, but he threw some people in that locker room under a
Oh
bus.
yeah, he did. Yeah,
And,
yeah.
we the public don't know who he was talking about,
Right,
but the people in that locker room almost certainly know who he's
right,
talking about
right.
because they've
Definitely,
probably seen some things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everybody
it's
knows.
just fractures. And now like I've come to grips that the Oakland Raiders no longer exist. So this is now you can't to me, in a lot of ways, you can't rely on the past history of the team or what we used to do here or how Oakland was or any of that, because in a year or two, a couple years, no one on that team's even, well, Max will still be there and maybe Hunter will have even played a game in Oakland. So I will give John Gruden was very big on the history of the Raiders and bringing former players to practice. And here's what being a Raiders about and trying to create that. Josh McDaniels doesn't have that. So,
Right.
and looking at him on the sideline, just, layman's I mean, I watch a lot of football, so I don't want to say layman, but just basic body language. Like, dude's not excitable. He's just kind of there. Like, I'm not seeing
He's a corporate coach.
He's
yeah,
yeah,
bro,
he's not they're not
perfect sense.
so all these guys,
Perfectly said.
Patricia, Joe Judge, Josh, these are not they're not culture setters. They go places
Sure.
and fail and go back to Bill Belichick. That's what they do. Now the guy Mike Vrabel in Tennessee, he played for Belichick but didn't coach under him. He left Belichick. And he's a
Mhm.
really good coach. That Tennessee team is not that good.
And they
So
perform yearly. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah, so it's like all these guys that hang around Belichick, man, they go to the place. They don't build cultures, and if something the Raiders need, they need a culture. They definitely need a
Badly.
culture,
Well,
And it's new,
and
bro.
these coaches aren't the Raider. I mean, the former Patriot coaches aren't the ones to build it. They're not those type of guys.
And
Now,
it's
Brian
got to
I
be
think
Dable,
brand new.
yeah,
I think the
Brian Dable was with
difficulty
them too.
for I
Go
think the
ahead.
difficulty for the assistant coaches in New England is that Belichick is his own culture.
Yep.
He tells everybody to shut up, get in line, and do your job. And so
Hmm.
people get used to doing their job,
Yep.
Hmm.
but not building culture and not building the
Sure.
energy.
Yep.
They're there to fall in line and do what they're supposed to do, and they all do it very well. That's why
Right.
the Patriots historically have been so good.
Yep.
But that does not translate into going into another organization and building that because they
Yep.
were never part of the
Absolutely.
building that. The
Yeah.
reason why the player they're so interchangeable and you can go to McDaniels can leave and New England is fine and McDaniels can come back and they're fine
Yep.
too, is because they are not a part of it that's important to build that culture.
Right. Bill Belichick is
Uh,
the culture. He's the GM. He's the
Definitely.
capologist. He's the offense, defense coach. He's everything. Exactly.
yeah,
That's
he's the
exactly right.
therapist.
Right. That's what he
Yeah,
is. Yep.
definitely. No, well said. So yeah, just it wasn't a good showing. That play that Devontae had though, Carr rolled out, stepped up in the pocket, hit Devontae on he had to be a 15-yard crosser and then just dipped and ran through everybody to score. Like you could just see the passion he plays with even on a bad team. Like dude's unstoppable. So they got to figure out how to
Well,
just got to
more
figure it
than
out.
half the yards that Carr threw for went to Adams.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and even in this down year, Devontae's like tied for number one in touchdowns. He's got a bunch of yards. Like he's still, getting production. It's just we're not winning. So I I always thought it was going to take. I didn't think it was going to take this long to figure it out, but maybe next season with an off season together and going through some more of this, they could figure it out. But they just look lifeless, man. It just wasn't. And honestly, it felt like the stadium. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like
Yeah.
once they told me to like kept telling me to sit, like that's kind of how the game went. Um, it's just how it felt. Like it wasn't like who was bringing the energy here in the stadium.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like where was it coming from? Like it would get loud and people would cheer, but it just was like, where's it come from? It's not from the coaches. I'm not
Yeah.
seeing y'all hyped. It's not like two or three players are into like the crowd. I gotta sit down. Like who's
Yeah, I mean, on a consistent basis, it's very few stadiums in the NFL now where they just get loud every week, like Kansas City, like a Philly. I mean, yeah, occasionally a Raiders, like they said, occasionally a 49ers, occasionally a Rams if it's a big
Every
game.
new every new
Huh?
stadium wipes out one of those crowds,
Exactly, exactly,
and they're
because it's
designed
corporate.
to do it.
true?
Yep,
True.
that's right,
Yeah.
The
because they
new
want the
stadiums
money.
are designed to do it
Well
because
Right,
said.
it's about profitizing
right.
the team and
Well
the
said.
organization, and they
It's
put
net.
the suites in there, and they put the
Yep.
club seats in there,
Yep.
and it used to be that the lower section was always fans, and the
Mhm.
top section was always fans. You had your fans with a little bit of money, but they were true fans, and then you had the whole middle section, which was
It's
corporate.
corporate guys.
Yep.
Yep.
And what you just told me about the Las Vegas is they brought that corporate one level lower because you were
Mhm.
in the 100 level basically, and you were in
Correct.
club seats.
Midfield. So
Uh,
both midfields.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
As opposed to before, they kept you all in a box
Yeah.
right through the middle,
Yeah.
essentially the suites, and then you had the
Yeah.
club seats. In fairness to Minnesota, their new stadium did exactly that. So the club level is the middle level, but they have some outdoor seatings. When I went to the Minnesota Vikings game, I was also in the club seats. The experience was outstanding, but the crowd was they made it go very straight up.
Mhm.
They said I think it might be the closest proximity from your furthest to your closest in any stadium of that size in Minnesota, and they did it because they wanted to give it that Coliseum feel where everyone's looking down
Mm.
at the team and they're all yelling and they have their skull clap and the whole nine. There are ways to do that, but most stadiums are designed to take the element out that is what you know Raider fandom has been. They tried to do it for San Francisco. It hasn't worked as
No, it
well.
didn't work. No, that hell no, that didn't
Yeah,
work. No
but
way.
they
Yeah.
tried to do it. It was a concept in their mind to try and
They
bring things down a
yeah,
notch.
they moved them far enough. And then when I talked to Niner fans who went to Candlestick, they say the vibe is different,
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
same. So
Candlestick was a fan stadium. Yeah.
yeah, and that's
This
all I
one
hear
isn't.
is how
Yeah.
much they enjoy it. And they're like, it's a stadium, it's cool, but I rarely hear a Niner fan that's been a Niner fan for a while say, "Oh my God, it's just so great in the vibe." They say
No.
it's cool, people there, but like
Yeah.
Brian, what you said is not hitting the nail on the head. It's perfectly explained.
And the thing about Candlestick I hated was just the parking. A lot of people just hated the parking. We were fine with the stadium. It was just the damn parking. And they
Yeah.
got the parking's a little bit better at Santa Clara, but the stadium is not fan-ish.
Well, it's
You know.
exactly what Brian said, man. They
Yeah.
wanted it's you can get more out of the corporate money because when I
Yeah.
talk to people,
Oh yeah,
you go underneath to the club sections and oh my God, all that stuff is beautiful and it's nice. And the seats are cool. You got half the fans in the sun at the stadium. You got, it is what it is. But that's how I felt. What you said is exactly that, B. And I put myself in that section, not in my mind, again, coming from Oakland, where I sat in those same seats in Oakland.
Right.
But it was Oakland. They didn't have the club. They didn't, figure out how to monetize those and give those to the casino and get those to, these high rollers that are coming in just to, you know, you're in Vegas, like, oh, why don't we go to the game? That'll be fun. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not like, that didn't happen in Oakland.
Right.
Rival fans came, but not like that. And they kept their head on a swivel. So
well,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was different, but
let's
it was
hit
cool.
let's hit a couple other games real quick before we
Yep.
move on.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, we
Oh
should talk
yeah.
about we should talk about what Miami's become a little bit, or at least the game itself wasn't interesting. Miami beating down the Browns isn't anything that
Right.
anyone's going to be shocked by, but 39-17 is a little bit more than beating a team that they should beat. It was a statement. It was a statement that the Miami Dolphins need to be dealt with and are for real. And it put them at the head of a conference or head of division because they got lucky enough to see the Bills lose. And Tua is that dude. So if you look at the other quarterbacks from that draft class, Tua's the only one who's got the kind of winning record that he has.
He benefited crazy from the
Well,
GM and
yeah.
McDaniels.
I
Absolutely.
know you're in the quarterback
He
rating. He's the
benefit.
number
Well,
one quarterback rating in the league.
yeah, he's rated really high, hasn't
Yep.
lost a game he's played all the way through. Yes, I, like everybody else who has two eyes and understands football, realizes that Tyreek Hill has a lot to do with
The
that.
offense they put together.
Yeah,
Yeah. That
but
offense.
that's the point. They've put in a lot of different pieces over there. I mean, Jeff Wilson, who just got there, 120 yards. Mostart, what did he get? 65 yards. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of really great things going on over there in Miami, and I just wanted to take a moment to at least acknowledge that they've gone from being awful and no one having any understanding how they're going to be good to very good pretty darn quickly. Tua gets a lot of credit for that. The GM gets a lot of
Yeah.
credit for that because
They
he
made him
brought
bad on
in
purpose because Flores was
um,
winning.
Tyreek Hill, and it looks brilliant right now to go and get all these 49er running backs because you know that they can run the ball because that's all the 49ers do. Sure, these guys are
That's where
off first,
McDaniel
but
was.
Jeff Wilson and Mostert, man, have
Well,
created that 1-2 punch in 49ers for on the other side and added a passing game to it.
Yeah, I'm happy you brought that up. Yeah, Jeff Wilson actually asked to be traded, and they did him a solid and traded him to Miami. But I give Miami credit, but I'm still not sold on them. I'm waiting to see how they get through December. They play against the 49ers, the Chargers, the Bills, and Green Bay. But beating Cleveland, like you
Bills is the
said,
game.
yeah,
And well, quite honestly,
at
they have
Bills,
three important games. It's the Bills, the Patriots, and the Jets.
yeah,
Now that's one of the best conferences record wise.
yeah. And Miami, what I've noticed is I didn't really watch them until they played Baltimore, and what I noticed against Baltimore and subsequent games, people are always open in that offense. They're always wide receivers are
Yeah.
always open. I mean, like open, college open. And I think I got to give McDaniels a lot of credit. I didn't know how
Absolutely.
he would do as a head coach, and he's killing it. And the reason why, what people are understanding, yes, they're passing the ball and they have Tyreek Hill, but they're still running the ball. So they have that threat of running and passing. The guys in the running back position are still getting their carries. As long they're not getting pass happy. They have good receivers, but they're not getting pass happy. They're still
That
running the
offense,
ball.
bro.
And so McDaniel's been doing it
Crazy
on that
design,
offense.
like you
The
said.
the number one motion team. They run motion on 76% of their plays. So they're running motion. They're doing their thing. They're running the ball. They're passing. But I'm still. A lot of people are sold. I'm not yet. Maybe the end of December I will. But we'll see. They're doing good right now.
Uh, they also
Here's what I'll
looked
say.
out.
I'm not. I don't know what being sold means, but I'll tell you, they've proven that they're a good team.
Oh, they are good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also made sure that Deshaun Watson could slide right back into the game without any quarterback controversy with that loss.
Yeah, only
Um,
division with all winning teams.
got
That's a tough
absolutely
division, and they're at the top of it.
I mean,
crazy.
I don't think nobody's surprised. Cleveland's 3-6. I mean, they got Jacoby Brissett. I mean,
Yeah, and of course, it's the
Well, it
division that
worked out for
the
them perfect.
Vikings have
They
to play
started
this
out
year.
hot though. The other two that I thought of was the Packers Cowboys and then
oh
also the
yeah,
Monday night game. But I'm
oh
also just trying to
yeah.
keep us going because I talked a lot about the Raiders. So
Man, that line I didn't understand. Green Bay was getting 5 from Dallas. In Green Bay, I took that 5, 4.5, 5 all day. Now Dallas should have won. This is another game where it says more about Dallas than it does about Green Bay. We know what Green Bay is. They're limited in the pass game. They're going to have to run the ball to win. They ran for over 200 yards. Everybody knew that Green Bay was going to have to run the ball. And McCarthy and Dallas. These are the games that Dak gets paid that $47 million for to win, and McCarthy, and they consistently blow it. They always lose these games every single year. When people want to believe in them, they lose. And they had Green Bay on the ropes, let them come back. I give Green Bay credit. They stay committed to the run. And then they got because Dallas is a primarily zone pass defense team. When Green Bay kept running the ball, they had a single high safety, and then Dallas went man, and Aaron Rodgers took advantage of it. So that was a good game plan. Obviously, Green Bay has the better coach, slightly better. I don't think he's great, but better than McCarthy, and they end up winning the game. It was a great game. Not as good as Buffalo and Minnesota, but it was a good game.
It was a good and entertaining game. One thing that I just noticed is Rodgers is a jerk. This is not a news flash that anyone has ever heard before, but his body language, the way he interacted with his team, the way he interacted with his coach through that entire game was that of a jerk. And then after the game, Christian Watson has 4 catches for 3 touchdowns, 107 yards. The kid, put it together, and he said, "Well, at least we don't have to worry about him dropping a lot of passes."
Right,
Like, damn, man,
right,
you can't. Every once in a while, giving someone a lot of encouragement goes a
right,
hell of a lot further. When you pick your when the guy's riding high and you go, you know what, man, you did it. Can you do it again next week? Let's see.
right.
Instead, he was, yeah, we didn't have to deal with all the drop passes this week. Like,
Yeah, that team needs
straight
leadership,
face, no
man.
congrats,
Right.
no, wow, that was impressive. Impressive showing from the rookie. It shows promise.
Yeah,
Nothing.
yeah.
Uh, I I don't. I think Rodgers is going to lose that. If he hasn't already, he's going to lose that team before the season's over.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, Jared Goff got his first win on the road as Detroit quarterback against the Bears. Still
damn.
not sure
Jared Goff
why.
is better than Matt Stafford.
Yeah, I'm still not understanding about this whole. Everybody's been hyping up Justin Fields, and I looked at his stats. He only passed like 160 some yards. So
How much did he run for?
I was about to say he'll run for 300.
yeah, it's the running part, but the X's. I listened to some X's and O's guys throughout the week, just to try to get some little tidbits on bets for the week, and nobody ever says anything about his passing. It's always running, his speed and everything. I'm
He
like,
ran for
eventually he's gonna
150
pass.
yards. That's it.
Yeah,
It's
He-
like he's running
he
for
hit it on the
500
ground.
yards the past 4 games. I'm like, We lost to Detroit.
Last week he ran for more yards than he passed for. This week he passed for more yards than he ran for, but not by much. 167,
Right.
147. But hey, look, the guy's accommodating for over 300 yards a game, and no matter which way you look at it, and 4 touchdowns. He is not going to be a Josh Allen where he can throw for 300 and run for 80 or 90. He's not that dynamic yet. I don't know. Maybe he could be, but I'm not suggesting he can. But he's playing football and he's finding ways to help his team win.
They lost.
But they lost.
Yeah, the worst defense in the league. Yeah.
That 30 points would have beat most teams.
He scored his 30 points. Like if you can't score 30 points and win, that's not as much on Justin Fields. That's on the defense. You give up 31 points to the Detroit Lions.
No, that's on Justin Fields. You see that pick 6 he threw? That was terrible. That's on him in the fourth quarter.
31 points. You give up 31 points. There's a defense.
They gave up 24. They gave up 24. Justin Fields gave him 7.
You gotta be able to put at least something out there. It's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a shootout, but you can't put it all on the quarterback when that happens.
And then my last one was the Monday night game because the Eagles take their first loss to a Washington team that came in there was hungry.
That surprised me.
Yeah, actually,
those division games always get
always tough.
Yeah, always tough. Division games. Yeah.
And there's so many times late in that game that you were expecting Philly to come back and win it, and they start driving down the field, and you're like, oh, here it goes.
They fumbled
Washington's
twice.
Going to fall apart, and then boom, they make a play. Or they hold them
turnover,
or they get the ball back, and then they needed to get a first down. They got the first down. They figured out a way. Philly is still very, very good, and they played a subpar game. But hats off to Washington for just throwing hard. And you got to give respect to Taylor Heineke, who was theoretically starting his last game. I honestly think they're not going to switch. I think he's going to stay the quarterback.
Yeah, they should have been. He's been playing
after this week. Yeah. But he went into that thinking that this is most likely going to be his last game, and he gave it everything. Lunging head first for first downs.
Yeah.
He did whatever he could to try and help that team, and every player on that team felt his energy and followed his energy, and that's the stuff that quarterbacks are supposed to be. Aaron Rodgers can take notes from Taylor Heineke.
Yeah. Heineke definitely isn't talented or good, but the team feeds off his energy. They feed off his energy. He's 10-9 as a starter. I didn't know he was 10-9 as a starter, and the other stars are 19-37 for the Commodores. I did not know that. But
Commodores, everything Brian just said about Aaron Rodgers, you just did. But okay.
I didn't do that. But that's I didn't know Washington was 5-5.
Not good or accurate or a solid quarterback. But
no.
Damn, bro, like he almost beat Tom Brady in the playoffs last year.
A couple years ago. Yeah, he got close.
What about
I didn't know Washington was 5-5 though. And the Rams are done, Brian. I think they're done.
Oh yeah,
the Rams are done.
What about this week? Any quick hitter games you guys are interested in? And then let's go to the college football.
Well, yeah, the most important game for me, obviously, is Minnesota and Dallas. I think this is a more important game than the Buffalo game. Beating Buffalo showed that we could win this game, but you have to win conference matchups, especially against teams that are right in the mix there, fighting for a division championship, possibly fighting for the difference between a 1 seed and a 2 seed. A 2 seed and a 3 seed in the playoffs, because it's likely that the Vikings and or the Eagles will be one and 2 depending on how things go, and that next team from Dallas is going to be the third. That next team from the NFC is going to be the third. So it's a very important game, and then you can't ignore the fact that the opening line was the Vikings. Sorry, the Cowboys -1 in Minnesota. Some people, I've talked to many people about this today, because I think I'm not on the Vikings like that yet, but I think that at home, after beating Buffalo and having their record, they should at least be favored by the 1 point. If you're going to do it one way, do it the other. Because 1 point either way is really just a pick 'em. But anyways, it's going to be a very, very interesting game. And I really hope that they can find a way to win this one. I feel like all the different pieces of the offense are finally kind of clicking at the same time. Like they figured out a passing game. Hawkinson has been huge. What an amazing trade that's been in just a couple weeks that he's been there. And the defense is not great, but man, do they make the most of opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
that game is interesting to me as well. The line is saying that Dallas is clearly better than Minnesota, so this is going to be interesting to me. Maybe because Minnesota just beat Buffalo, they might expect to come down. I don't know, but I'm definitely going to watch this game. It's definitely interesting. Another game that interests me, to be honest with you, Glenn, is Dallas and I mean not Dallas, Denver and Vegas playing in Denver, and the reason why is I want to see how the Raiders respond to what happened last week.
Oh, they were saying this is the battle of which coach gets fired. Like whoever loses game.
Right. Because you guys already beat Denver once,
Yeah,
so
at the
you know,
crib though.
this will be an interesting game. And the only other game, it's only 3 games that interest me. The only other game that interests me, I'm not going to watch it. Is the Jets in New England. I'm not going to watch. I just
Yeah,
want to see
they're
if the
divisional.
Jets, yeah, if the Jets can beat New England.
I
So
think that's a
that's
very
it.
important game too. I
It
mean,
is
Yeah, it
important.
is.
Yeah.
everyone
Not gonna watch it.
everyone's winning everything in that division. Someone's got to blink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and your
So
Niners are playing in Mexico against the
right.
Cardinals.
Yeah. I would never ever, like I said, I would take the Chargers last week +7. I would take Arizona +9. I would never take the 49ers on a big spread. Never.
You'd have lost
Never.
last week.
Yeah.
What's
No, I won. Chargers they only won by 6. Chargers
Oh,
covered the spread. Yeah.
got it.
Never take the Niners on a big spread. No long
Oh,
run.
I see what you're saying. Okay, I
Yeah.
thought about it reverse. Got you. Okay.
Never. Yeah.
What about give me this college football playoff situation, man? What you guys were talking about it when we started on the show.
Yeah, so like
What's going on there?
the news, the new college football rankings came out today for the playoffs. It's Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3, and TCU 4, with Tennessee, LSU, and then USC after that. Uh, Jason, let you start. What do you think about that when you saw that come out?
Okay, when I saw that come out, I had no problem with the top 4, to be perfectly honest with you. Uh, Tennessee, I do have a problem with them being 5th. I mean, we discussed this last week. When you only score field goals against Georgia, you don't deserve to be ranked this high. I understand they score 50, 60 points, but in the game that mattered, they kind of didn't, they kind of wet the bed. LSU, and we were talking before the show, I get it. They have 2 losses, but beating Alabama just carries a lot of weight in this college football playoff ranking thing. And so I would think they will be ahead of Tennessee, but I think if they beat Georgia in the SEC final, I think they'll definitely get in. And usually the winner of the SEC West is always in the mix for a playoff spot. And then I see USC, which should be ahead of Alabama. USC is number 7. I just think playing in the Pac-12 kind of hurts them a little bit, especially with Oregon and UCLA losing this past week because they play UCLA, and UCLA already has 2 losses now, I believe. So I don't know. I think USC is I don't think they're good enough to beat the best teams, the top 4 teams, just because that defense only have 1 NFL draftable player in the front 7. But I think they should have a legitimate shot to get in, and I don't think the way it's set up, Brian, I don't think USC will get in at all. Even if these teams above them lose, I think they will still find a way to keep USC out because of Pac-12 bias, I believe.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, right? It's that it's all bias because you cannot give a team credit for beating a ghost. And what I mean by that, Alabama is a ghost of what they used to be. They are not the same team that they've been
Yeah.
in years past, where they were a juggernaut.
Mm-hmm.
With the ability to pay players or whatever you want to call it, the ability to pay players, Alabama just had the field evened up a little bit on them, and ultimately they're showing some wear and tear. That's not to say that they're not a very good team, but they've lost twice. And when you lose twice, you fall. So being a 2-loss team who beat a 2-loss team, why are you giving them so much credit? They're not the Alabama that won national championships in the last few years. So there's no good reason that I can possibly see for that. I agree with you with the top 4. Right now, you should call it Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU. But you've got to make sure, when teams lose, when they're in that top 4 and they perform as poorly as Tennessee does, you're supposed to fall pretty significantly, like it did for Oregon, like it's done for plenty of other teams that suffered their losses. When SC suffered a loss, they fell, like a rock. Oregon, they just fell like a rock. UCLA, they just fell like a rock. These other teams should. I worry about when a Michigan and Ohio State game happens, if the loser of that game gets put back in. It does a couple of things. If Ohio State Michigan isn't an elimination game from the playoff, which it should be, just like Tennessee losing should have been, all you do is get repeats in the playoffs.
Yep.
And I don't want to watch Ohio State Michigan play again after I just watched them 2 weeks before, and they're the last game of the season. That does not make any sense.
Yep.
But as you said, there's so much bias against the Pac-12 because USC hasn't played UCLA yet, and I think UCLA is very good, and I think they could beat USC.
Yeah.
I think that the USC passing game against that UCLA defense is the reason why USC can possibly win as well. They just lost die. That's a big deal. But here's the point. The point is, you can't say, well, they're in the Pac-12 and they're only playing a 2-loss UCLA team and a 2-loss Oregon team when they're not going to play Oregon and they haven't played UCLA, but still give credit to Alabama and LSU with 2 losses in their division. If you're going to judge the conference based on this year's information, which they want to do for USC in the Pac-12, you got to do it for the SEC too.
Which we know they don't.
They don't.
They don't. Yeah.
Which is why it should have never. Why 2 things? It should have never been a 4 team because they can't be unbiased and get the best 4 teams in there to play every time. That's why I always said it should be 8 with the Power 5 getting guaranteed slots for their division championship. So win and you're in, and then the last 3 let the committee figure the play-ins out. Which give them, they pick 4 now, they pick 3 then. It would have been a much better situation.
They're saying I'm looking at the internet saying that it's 4 currently, but it's supposed to be 12 teams beginning no earlier than 2024 and no later than 2026.
Yeah, they switched it to 12. I'm saying I've always said for as long as we've been doing this show that it should be 8. It should have been the Power 5 getting their division, their conference winners in, and that would have kept UCLA and USC at the Pac-12 too, in my opinion. Yeah, and then the next 3 play in. 12, I'm happy that it's not 4. I think 12 is too many, but whatever.
It's a lot. Yeah. Word.
Yeah. And I gotta give props to TCU, and I just have to come to the conclusion Steve Sarkisian can't coach. Texas is just not. It's not working. It's just not working. Steve Sarkisian, it's just not working. TCU, they scored 10 points. Texas scored 10 points at home against TCU and lost the damn game. That
was documented. Give me all right, so that's cool because I didn't even know any of this. So now
Sarkisian was also perked.
Right. Yeah. He stayed perking. Yeah.
Hilarious.
He stayed perking.
Okay. Well played. Way to call it back. So now we were talking real quick about a new era of the NBA. As I'm seeing the Kings get busy. Shouts out to the Sac Kings putting up 133 on Brooklyn, about to smoke them. But you mentioned this, guys, is kind of like we're seeing a shift in kind of the teams that are at the top. And I kind of feel like it's been happening the last few years, even with the Warriors getting up there because they were historically not that great, and they made some good picks and drafted players and homegrowns, and they're rising. The Bucks winning a championship, Phoenix being in the top, just like a kind of a changing of the guard. Do you guys see this as a change of the guard? Is it too early? Do you think those historically, the Lakers, the Spurs, those teams that have been good in the past are coming back, or are we just seeing a shift as more parity happens?
Maybe they will, but for the last couple of years, we've seen the guards walking towards each other, and I think they just handed off the baton.
Look at this guy.
The Clippers were supposed to be a force to be reckoned with 3 super veterans and
none of us ever believed
that. Super veterans.
Super veterans.
That's also us.
And that didn't work. The Lakers were supposed to be something which we didn't believe, but plenty of others did. We're supposed to be with their 3 super veterans both last year and this year. It didn't work. Golden State Warriors are struggling right now. They just sent Wiseman
right?
down to the G League, which just tells me how much turmoil. I mean, it wasn't a few months ago that they were talking about how they could easily trade Draymond because Wiseman's got next and he's developed and all this other stuff, and now he's in the G League. And they've got their super veterans. And then you look at the other side where you have the Phoenix that has some youth in there, and you have Dallas that obviously is running with Luka.
Sure.
The Denver. There's all these other teams that are there. There's still some representation, right? So Dame's in first place, and he still is what powers the Portland Trailblazers. He's a veteran, but he's never been one of these kind of super teams. He's got youth players.
Right.
Then in the East, you've got Tatum and you've got Giannis and you've got Trey and you've got the total team of Cleveland, which is all super young guys, and Mitchell. So yeah, I think the baton may have just got handed off, and we'll start seeing more and more of it happen. That doesn't mean that next year they couldn't change it all up or mid-season this year and do some trades and Westbrook goes there and Kyrie goes here and KD goes there and Drake, whatever. Like you can mix the pieces up and bring something together, but it will never be it will not be for several years a Clippers, San Antonio, Lakers, Warriors, a given as being one of the top seeds, right?
Definitely.
And then it's not going to be. I think we might have even watched Philly. We trusted the process. It's looking like the process is towards the end.
Sure.
I think they'll be good, but Harden is just you can't meld him with Embiid, and Embiid needs to stay healthy and play better.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to concede a changing of the guard yet, and the only reason why, maybe next year, but the only reason why is because you want to see how these teams do in the playoffs. We always see a lot of teams start fast, young teams start fast, and they kind of tail off at the end, and then you think they're going to make a first round push, and they end up losing 4-1 or whatever in the playoffs. So I'm not ready to concede yet, though. What Brian is saying, I can definitely see it happening, just not at the present moment. Just like fans who really don't watch the NBA in the regular season, the players don't really care either because in the end, all everybody talks about is how many rings you got. So I just think these veteran teams, you always see it. They don't never try to go for the number one seed, the veteran team. They just want to go cruise through the season and make sure they're healthy for playoff runs. And if you're telling me who am I going to take in the playoffs, whether the Warriors or Utah, let's just say Utah's number one seed, I'm taking the Warriors all day. The Nuggets, they're playing well, but we always see the Nuggets kind of tail off second round of the playoffs every single season. So I'm with you, Brian. I don't disagree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just don't want to concede this year, or at least right now.
You can see the guards marching.
You can see it.
I think they may have handed it off this year. We'll see.
Right.
You think if it's not this year, it's probably next year.
Well, especially in the West. In the East, the Celtics and the Bucks are clearly the top two teams.
One thing that you're saying is, hey, the Warriors, I would take them against the one seed Utah. Warriors might not make the playoffs. They're in a play-in game. They're 10th right now.
They need to win a road game because that's something they can't do right now is win a road game. So yeah, they need to try to do that first. Yeah, and then I don't know if you noticed. I don't know if you guys watched the Timberwolves this year, but they play different when they got Rudy Gobert. What's the guy named Anthony Gordon? What's the guy name?
Anthony Bennett.
The guard who's really athletic for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He went to Georgia, I believe. He had a lot of dunks and threes and stuff last year. His name is Bennett? I didn't know his name was Bennett. I thought it was something else. But yeah, I forgot his name. But I've noticed that since Rudy Gobert's been there, he doesn't go to the lane as much because Gobert is clogging it. And the Timberwolves are right now, they're 6-8. And a lot of people
Gobert. It's Gobert and Cat. That's a lot of big
right. Cat, it was okay. He was still able to navigate. But
one guy, but that's a lot of people.
But Rudy Gobert, it's like, they're not really playing that well. I guess they're still trying to get adjusted. But
Anthony Edwards,
yeah, that's him.
Sorry.
Anthony Edwards, him. Yeah. So he was like really like their guy. And he came on, but this year he's just not. I think Rudy Gobert's clogging up that lane for him, so he's not getting to the cup as much. But yeah, I definitely agree with you, Brian. I'm not disagreeing at all.
I don't know anybody on this team. I'm looking at the roster. Okay. Word up. No,
you want to see a team you don't recognize? Look at Cleveland. They're a good team.
Yeah, I'd only know Sexton and Mitchell.
I don't think Sexton's there. He's still there?
Or no, what's his name?
No, he's not there. Okay.
Yeah,
Donovan Mitchell.
His name. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right. See, Brian, I couldn't even do that right. So yeah, I don't know no young teams. All right. So I had this idea for this segment after Brian said something was hogwash last show. And so I just want to give you guys a second. Like I'm calling it's either gonna be that's hogwash or hella hogwash or a bunch of hogwash, but Give me a couple, like you guys pick one thing that based on this last week or whatever is just like complete hogwash in sports. Like what's ridiculous?
Shit, I'll go. Texas A&M not going to a bowl game. They're 3-7. They got $100 million coach in football. They pretty much paid for their entire number one draft class in history, and they've won 3 games all season. They spent all that money in NIL deals. Everybody thought paying the players was great. Players getting paid, not performing. These cats getting paid $900,000 and winning 3 games out of 10 this year with $100 million coach that they cannot get rid of because it's too much to buy them out.
Are you talking
That's
about the
the
Raiders?
nonsense.
Or are you talking about
Texas
oh,
A&M college football team.
okay,
Them.
Brian?
Yeah.
I like it.
I'll say it's something different. It's the refereeing in the NFL this year, and it's not that they're missing calls. Actions fast, things happen. It's that they're not even doing the things that they're supposed to do to get it right. In that, so I'll use the Vikings game. There was a huge play. It was a game, could have been a game changing play in overtime where it looked like a wide receiver had made an awesome catch, but everyone wasn't sure. And there's a whole bunch of people who were saying that he didn't make the catch. And they let everybody come over there, they get it ready, and they don't even review it. The reviews are all initiated by the booth. It's super easy for them to stop the play. I watched that happen in 4 or 5 different games, at least twice
Mm.
over the course of Sunday. I totally understand that referees miss things because of the speed of the action, and that is not the problem. The problem is that they were given a tool to allow them to get it right in big moments,
Mm.
and instead of the controversy being the missed call, it's that they've missed the opportunity to even get it correct and get it right. I'm not sure which one's more frustrating. They're both equally frustrating, but they've got to implement that a little bit better. And it's just truly unfortunate. So that's hogwash, man. You get the opportunity to get it right,
Hmm.
and you don't use the opportunity to get it right.
Mm.
That's hogwash.
Yeah. And also, Glenn, I got another one. Lifetime employment for college coaches. Syracuse just lost to Colgate for the second straight year. It's time for Jim Boeheim to go, man. I know you won a
Colgate.
championship 20 years ago, but
Oh
I mean, you
yeah.
can't be losing to a dental
Yeah.
school,
He got
man, or whatever
Carmelo's
he
son
plays.
coming. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
They got
mean, yeah,
they
Duke just
recruiting
lost
Carmelo's
to.
son. Yeah.
yeah. I
That's
mean,
funny.
but
Okay.
but I know, yeah, Syracuse is built like a women's prison. I get it. He won a championship, but it's
I
time to go,
like this.
man.
I like this segment. Word. All right, guys. Thanks for indulging me on that. We'll see. We'll see if that sticks. So that's our show. This is our last segment. Now is like the minute to win it. Just a chance for all of us to get a minute or so just to kind of say anything that's on your mind. Um, if y'all got some, go for it.
I'll go. And this is for Brian's text that he sent, I think last night with Jimmy Garoppolo when it had for those who don't know, Brian sent me and Glenn a text. I'm sorry, I'm gonna make some of you 49er fans mad. You know I'm off the Garoppolo train. I'm off of that. Brian sent the text. It was an ESPN graphic that said Jimmy G is 10-2 when not throwing for any touchdowns. Basically, when he don't do jack, the team wins, and he's getting called a winner for it. I don't understand that. I hate when they call Tim Tebow a winner at Florida, so he's supposed to win it. It doesn't work like that. You got to do something in the NFL. 10-2 when not throwing any touchdown passes. That's not saying that Jimmy G is balling out. That's just saying he's being carried by everybody else and they're still winning. So that's some hogwash. I could have said that too, but that's
Could
my
have.
minute to win it. And
I
whatever. I
love
know
it.
I'm gonna piss off some 49er fans or whatever.
They shouldn't be mad.
Damn it.
What would you be mad at?
I'm not supposed to respond to anything said in this, so I won't. Man. But look, I had three. There's 3 quick points I wanted to make. My heart goes out to hockey team that is St. Ignatius College Prep. Was in a bus accident a couple days ago. 16 students were seriously injured, and that's just a horrific tragedy. My heart goes out to that. There's been a series of bus related accidents. There was one where they think that maybe the driver fell asleep and crashed into big rig going back from one school to another, going back to school. It's just really sad. Everyone stays safe. Staying on the
Definitely.
tragedy note, I think everyone's heard about the shooting in UVA where 3 of the college football players were shot and killed, and one seriously injured, critically injured, and is in the hospital right now. Um, just another senseless act of violence. Virginia has already had to experience this before. This is UVA. The last time we all know was Virginia Tech. These things, they're very, very sad, very disappointing. My heart goes out to the team out there. They're not sure if they're going to even play the game this week. I don't think that decision's been made. The coach said earlier
Yeah.
today, they haven't quite figured it out. But either way, play or no play, my heart goes out to them. The last thing is the world got a little darker this evening. President Trump announced that he's gonna start a new presidential bid and run again. So we get at least 2 more years of having to deal with his BS. Uh, that's assuming he loses 6 years. If he wins, he would be only the second president to ever serve his second term with any time in between. The other one was Grover Cleveland when he, I
Mhm.
believe, went to war. Uh, but you know, buckle up. It's about to get crazy.
That's great. Mine is a little bit lighter. Of course, thoughts, definitely prayers, blessings to the families affected by tragedies. Respect. Mine is actually to the guys of Eastside Golf. So if you're not aware, Eastside Golf is a streetwear brand, golf based by two black men, Olajuwon Ojinaku and Earl Cooper, who were actually former Morehouse College golf teammates. So I have a connection there because they went to my school, brothers at golf. If you haven't heard about Eastside Golf, it's a cool brand. I haven't been able to get anything, any of the shirts or anything because they've always been sold out. They just did a collaboration with the Jordan brand, so they had a bunch of golf shoes that are Jordan inspired, including some other like lifestyle kicks that come out that I actually have on the way to me now because I was able to get those. So shout out to the brothers, man, from Eastside Golf, Morehouse College. I got to represent there. So we appreciate
Mhm.
y'all for listening. Thank you. This is the Sports Counterpoints podcast. We will see you next week. Holla.